thank you so much for coming out. I'm really, really honored to be with Bruce LaBruce here, who is somebody who I had seen his work throughout the years, and one of his films in particular, with the Raspberry Rag, was a film that I used to show my crew, actually, and some of my team, to create ideas visually for how to make queerness and punkness into one visual extravaganza. So it's a really big honor for me to have this opportunity where you study somebody's work and then, I get to have a conversation with this master who taught me so much as a student and as a beginner filmmaker. So I really appreciate Bruce in his support for the project and for being here tonight. Thank you.
I love the film. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if we just launch into conversation.
I mean, I'm sort of supposed to be the Q. You're the A. So I'm going to ask you questions. First of all, I think, for a first feature, I mean, it's so self-assured and it works so well. I mean, how did you do that?
Yeah. Well,
I mean, are you a cinephile? Do you watch like tons of movies? I know that you had a mentor on this film, which is an executive producer named
Godfrey,
who was a producer of
Queen's Gatti,
a film that was that I saw as a film student. So anyway, how did you manage it? Because as a first feature, I mean, it's way better than any of my first features. It's way more, I think, self-assured in terms of its the way that you work with the actors and just the flow of the narrative and yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I guess as a first film, as a writer, and then a director, and then actually playing the role of the actor, you do have kind of like a control freak, and you have the ability to understand the character from inside of the script, and I think that is...
Because you're basically playing yourself.
Yeah, playing myself, and...
Which I did in my first feature.
Yeah, in your first 3 films to some degree, and that's a cool thing that we have in common. And just there's so much chaos when you're making a film, and the chaos went in favor of the narrative in my project somehow. And I mean every fucking day there was a problem, a big ass problem.
There always is.
And you don't see it that much in the film except for the box, but. That's not a problem.
There is. I mean, filmmaking for me is impossible, and it's like a crazy kind of chaos every day, and for me that's never gotten easier. I mean, but you don't see it in the film.
Yeah.
The film, like I said, seems very self-assured. It seems like very intentional. So. I think that's a measure of how confident you were in the script and what you were trying to say.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think that there is. I mean, I didn't even have to memorize the lines. I mean, it's a heavily scripted project.
There's a lot of dialogue.
A lot of dialogue, but it was just something that was so inside of me that the lines I just had to memorize it, and stuff like that where it's on an unconscious level, and then when you come and in the pandemic, there's 3 stars in the film, very big Argentine actor, the orange-haired woman, Yeah.
And the woman who did the lip syncing.
She started out this as a theater actor. You know, Buenos Aires has tons of theater. I almost had a film with Bruce in Buenos Aires. You didn't come down to that, I guess, in Buenos Aires, did you?
I've been to Brazil. I know your film.
We screened it.
I've had 3 films. I've been there 3 times. And I made this the Buenos Aires Independent Film Festival. I've been 3 times. I have a little bit of a following down there in Argentina, and it's one of the best independent film festivals in the world.
The theater, they have a lot of theater there. So Bella came from theater. These are all very, very experienced actors, and I've never acted before in a film. So for me, it was the first time acting, and for everybody else, they were highly talented. So there's like that old trope that like a rising tide lifts all the boats. And there was an element of that where I feel like.
But you were learning from them.
I was learning from them.
Yeah.
And so it was like, you know, the way that they would come to each scene with ideas, and if something wasn't working, and you know, I think we talked a little bit before this, Bruce and I, about how the complications of acting and directing simultaneously. And one of the tips I got from a friend was to use the acting in the scene, instead of looking for whether or not it's working out behind the camera, do it in front of the camera. So talk to the actors and see how the scene feels, instead of, you know, talking to my DP or somebody, or like, you know, some coach behind the scene.
Well, there was chemistry. I mean, the chemistry is apparent. There's like great chemistry between the actors. And my first review of the film was, it's Godspell without the God, right? So it has that Godspellian kind of thing with it. It's an ensemble of actors who. I mean, did you rehearse a lot?
Is
that how you got that? That trust.
It's such a good, it's a good question. The main stars, they don't like to rehearse. You know, it's like
right.
How do you and you've worked with stars. They're timed, they're not patient, they're paid a certain amount, and you know, it's a transactional arrangement. And how do you make that look like it's not?
Yeah, that's why they're pros. They show up and do the work, and you know, unless you're Mike Lee or someone, right? You know, most people don't rehearse that much for a film.
But you know, the question of developing camaraderie and chemistry happened during, I think we did a proof of concept shoot, and that was really great. You know, if you have the opportunity to you know, work on for 2 days on trying out.
I've never done that.
And it turned out, because we changed the style of the film as a result of that. So we had a visual ideas that became more pastel, more colorful.
But that was like a rehearsal almost.
Yeah, it was like a rehearsal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you did remarkably well with the actors, because you can't tell that you're a non-actor. It's very seamless with you. And then one of the other things I love about the film, because I also make films internationally and in other cities and other cultures. And for me, that is the great pleasure of making a movie like in another city, is learning the culture and learning and see all the location. It's the best way to get to know a foreign city is to make a movie there, because you get to know the people, you work with people in the cast or in the crew who are from there. You just get absorbed into the culture. And I love, like, for me, as someone who's visited Buenos Aires like 5 or 6 times, you really capture that kind of, the view of the outsider, seeing the city. And sometimes an outsider appreciates the city more than someone who lives there in a way, visually, But I mean, just the use of locations, and I thought was amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.
How did you go about that? Was that just something that was it your experience of the city, or you had You worked with location managers? Or?
Yeah, actually, growing up in California, in Monterey, it was very, very expensive to study art, and it was hard to justify it. I came from a middle-class family, and nobody in my family had any background in art. Nobody took me to museums or watched movies with me or anything, and I grew up without a father who died when I was 9 months old. And I think that the idea of, traveling to Argentina, and I'd always kind of been fascinated after hearing about the pirate who conquered our state. It's the only pirate in the history of California. It's this Argentine guy named Gianluca who came with 2 boats. I'm pretty sure.
And is that street actually named
Yeah,
after him?
yeah.
Okay. Because I noticed the sign.
Yeah, there's signs and stuff around there, but the funny thing is that this, he probably inspired the mythology of like the Goonies and the Pirates of the Caribbean, which was written in my town in Monterey, California, and so the pirate lore is very exciting, and so that kind of
Friggin' in the Riggin'.
yes, the pirate utopia.
Yeah.
There's even a book about that, and so I always wanted to travel down because he comes from, or he is in Argentina. He's an Argentine pirate, and I always wanted to go to Buenos Aires after I heard that he conquered my town in like 1818, and that was one of the reasons that brought me as a backpacker to Buenos Aires. And when I got there, I learned that I could study art for free. And I just, that was kind of like a mind, because I in California I grew up with a lot of guilt studying art, or like painting. I wanted to be a painter. I started out kind of with that as a goal, and it was very difficult to justify the rents of San Francisco or Berkeley, where I went to school, and just paint all day or something, right? With a high cost of rent. And then when I went to Argentina, the university was free. And so I kind of studied painting there for
So
some
you
years.
went
Yeah.
to the place
Yeah.
of the country that tried to conquer your country.
Yes, it's the exact opposite. The film is about pirates and
Yeah.
colonialism in a way.
Yeah.
And
But it was, as you point out in the film, it was also a colonialist country that had slaves and,
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the irony, right? Even with the word Yankee, because there's no word for, they don't say American in Spanish in Argentina. Like,
Right.
that's not a word for a U.S. citizen.
Right. I try to avoid that.
Yes, totally.
I don't say you're American, I say you're USA.
Yeah.
Because you're not American. Because you're only part of America.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, and they developed a word for it, in fact, and their word is Yankee for some from the United States.
I like the word Yankee.
Isn't that anything?
Although
like,
it has Civil War.
Yeah, and that's what's funny about it, right? Because it was like the British term to describe the people who were anti-imperialist.
Yeah.
Right? So they're like, we don't want the British rule, and now it's used kind of as the opposite.
I mean, in England during the Second World War, their Americans were called Yanks.
Right. Yanks.
So.
And then it became like in the lining. There was like a,
Limeys.
you remember the
Yeah.
Yank? They called them like septics because the septic tank rhymed with Yank, and it was like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was like one of the Cockney Scottish dialect. And
Right, the rhyming's like.
Yeah, the rhyming.
So did you run into anti-Americanism
Oh, yeah,
in
totally.
Argentina?
Oh yeah, and
Especially
it's still
when you're
it's still-
making the film.
It's still very much present.
Did they see you as an interloper? Or
Yeah, I mean, you have being very sensitive with the idea of neo-colonialism, and but yet we were financing a film there, and the Argentine government gave us about 20%, and the other 80% comes from the United States. So essentially, we were employing 99% of our team is from Argentina, and I'm the only one with my other 2 producers who are from the United States. So in that sense, the idea of kind of embodying the community that you're representing is something that I learned. I had a short internship kind of job at Cinereach in New York, which is a queer-based production financing company that they did like Moonlight and all of Sean Baker financed all of his films up until like 2020, and so I learned a lot about what it how those high-end studios think about inclusive casting from a very diverse perspective. And I think that I took that into casting and into wanting to represent the film in some sort of authentic way. So like you said, there is a feeling of kind of being an outsider, and there also is, it's a great thing to kind of, when you are so passionate about their culture, because I really love Buenos Aires, I love being there. It's a very exciting, it has everything that we don't have in California.
But you had it financed before. Who's the new president? El Loco. Milei. I was just reading an article about him in the New Yorker.
Yeah.
He's crazy. He's trying to be like, make Argentina great again, and he's very Trumpy.
Yeah.
And I have friends in Argentina who are filmmakers, and I was going to try to make a movie down there after I showed a film there, during the pandemic. I was actually stuck in Argentina at FEC because I tested positive for COVID in Argentina, and had to spend an extra 10 days there. And fortunately, I was at a 5-star hotel. But anyway, they let me stay for 5 more days, and then I had to go to a cheaper one. But no, but in terms of financing, I mean, my friends who are producers there had to literally leave the country because they're financing. When Milei took power, the new president, the funding literally just dried up overnight.
Yeah, there's no
for film, especially for queer films.
There's no film. They had, I mean, the national government, kind of like the French model, had financed about 200 films a year for at least 50 years or 30, 40 years, and now there's been 0 films in the last 2 years.
They got
0.
My friends that moved to Greece because they couldn't. So you're lucky, I guess, that you just got in there.
Yeah, one of the last 20, 50 films that got financing from the country. And it's difficult to, they do read your script, and I have political commentary that also is going against the current government, and and so if it was now, they would be like, sorry.
Oh, I mean, they wouldn't even consider.
Yeah, no way.
In fact, they might put you in jail. I mean,
Well, there's censorship right now in Argentina about queer and political films. They are trying to erase the memory of the U.S. Funded terrorist, what they call Operation Condor. In the 70s and 80s, they were just trying to pretend like that didn't happen.
Well, I mean, the previous president, Fernandez. When I was there the last time, I went to this amazing cabaret, trans cabaret, where his son was a trans,
is a
drag queen at this. The president's son was a drag queen at this. What's the name of that?
I can't remember.
This huge, famous cabaret, and I went backstage and met.
Oh wow!
And now it's become this Trump, nightmare. So what is your connection now with? When's the last time you've been back? You have obviously a lot of friends there and connections.
I actually, I've been traveling a lot with the film. Luckily, this year, I was just in Argentina 2 days ago. I just came here.
Where?
I was in Buenos Aires. I was in Buenos Aires. And so I go back and forth a lot based on just.
They still let you in.
Yeah, they let me in somehow. Like they're so welcome to immigrants that as U.S. citizen, Europeans, pretty much anywhere in Latin America, and they have public hospitals, not just public universities.
Yeah.
So,
no, I mean, that's the liberal legacy of
Perón.
The Perón. Even though they were problematic, they were essentially kind of like very left.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, so you have a country where literally I was illegal for 2.5 years, Bruce. When I was during the pandemic, I was living illegally for 2.5 years because I was stuck in Argentina. I had gone down there to shoot, to do some research for a different film, and I was stuck there. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just stay in Buenos Aires. It's a wonderful place to be stuck in the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I ended up staying in this Airbnb for 2.5 years, and I went down there to stay for a month. And that turned into the writing of the script in the same apartment where I was staying the first few months of the pandemic, and then we went through pre-production and development and all of that. So yeah, I've been there off and on for 5 years now, and you know,
Is it like a second home?
Yeah, oh totally.
Yeah.
You know, speaking Spanish and a lot of that about like when you learn another language, it's like, you know, it kind of feels like acting. Because you're just like kind of reading, like how do you learn a language? You read. If you don't grow up in a family that speaks that language, you memorize.
I love that line in the film when you talk about how speaking Spanish as a second language is like
It's like acting.
Acting.
Yeah.
And that you're not. It doesn't feel totally authentic.
Yeah, totally.
Because you're playing a role.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's a word, right? It's like parroting, right? The English word. It's totally.
Yeah, I do have the whole parrot metaphor.
Yeah, and the parrot, of course.
Your name becomes.
Yeah, the name becomes parrot, and you know the pirate motif, and you know the.
Oh my God! I mean, it's very. I mean, I think the film is very literary, and the kind of imagery and the way the politics are woven into the narrative is very sophisticated.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. There's a lot of thought put into the wardrobe, the green at the end, the parrot earring. I think the pirate motif is one that is very mysterious. You know, there's like the pirate men there's this license called the Maitre Lodge. Have you ever heard of that? Men were able to kind of like give their inheritance to other men if they were to die. Kind of like they were able to marry basically on pirate ships. Like men got married, they had a certificate of marriage in pirate ships
to pass down
to pass down their belongings, which is something extremely radical in the 1700s.
And they were also fucking. So
they
might as well have married.
But you know what? And they're also bury their treasure. Like they're against banks. Like they hate banks.
Right.
You know, like
they're like crypto pirates.
They're like crypto gods. And you know, and so there's a lot of very profound lessons to be learned from thieves and thugs and well, what is a pirate today? And I think that's an ultimate theme in the project. Like you have the United States, right, which is kind of like the biggest pirate in the world, and without the romantic erotic mythology, and then
all the negative.
Oh, totally. But then if you go to Buenos Aires, because I don't know if anybody told you when you were there, but there are a lot of pickpockets. Everybody I know has lost their phone. I mean, just last week I was at a table and this guy walked in and he was selling like, he was selling like pencils or something. And you know, they put pencils on your and when you go into a restaurant, you see that often. They will come in and they'll sell stuff. They'll put it. And so this guy came and he just like took somebody's phone off the table and ran out. I mean, and that kind of thing happens a lot. So this idea of being robbed, which you see at the beginning of the film, is something that even happened to me. I mean, like they stole a bag from me, but it's just part of the mythology of the city.
Well, and the other thing is the currency, the American currency, where I could never really figure it out. Like, everyone was telling me, whatever you do, don't use your credit card. Go to these little kiosks, these little stores, and it's like a black market where you can change your American currency outside of the bank and get a much better deal. I never was able to figure it out. But even that is like a kind of piracy.
Oh, totally. 100%. I mean, like, and in fact, if you have like $100 bill, you get a higher exchange rate than a $50 bill when you're exchanging currency on the street. And if you have a big-faced Franklin, you have a higher currency than a small-faced Franklin.
Right.
I mean, they have this thing worked out, I'm telling you. And so the way that you're supposed to only change money on the streets. So you're only supposed to use the black market, essentially.
Yeah.
And so you're not supposed to use your credit card because you lose 50% of the value of your money if you use a credit card. You know, they don't like banks. So it's like anything that has to do with banks and lending money and storing money in some foreign place, they've been so screwed in the history that the average person there, in 2001, there was the bank run, and you know, everybody lost their money, anybody that had any money in the bank. So they're very cautious. They're very cautious.
Well, I love how you had it in the film, the idea, because the film has in common with my film, The Raspberry Rye, this critique of the kind of radical left, where they're trying to do something like against the establishment, against, you know, the economic establishment.
Yeah.
So they rob a bank, but they don't rob the right bank. They rob, you know, they rob a bank that is like
it's a co-op.
That is a co-op where like it's for like people to poorer people to like try to save their money and then they make them, and then like the girl thing. I mean, one of my favorite sequences in the film is when they're going to take the money back, and that one character who I love is talking about how graffiti should be only in museums. So like, graffiti is better in museums because then the artist gets paid, and there isn't rats running around, blah blah. And you know, it's just a kind of very gentle critique of the radical left, where sometimes their heart is in the right place, but they get it wrong, you know. So you really do get into that idea of.
We were talking about that just right before the chat and it started, and just the idea at the ending, kind of the separation of the two, the group separates, and one of them, you know, stays with the radical left, and the other group, they go to Hawaii. They're like, fuck this, let's go take the play on Broadway to New York. You know? But it's ultimately kind of the idea of anarchy, kind of the idea of the pirate spirit.
Are your politics actually something that that you're going to stick with, or is it just a phase that you go through in order to like advance your career or something? You know?
I mean, there was a lot of elements like the repetition of the characters towards the end and the surreal element, which makes it a little bit difficult to understand, I think, for a lot of English-speaking audiences towards the end, where kind of the reality and the fiction, there's like a meta layer, where there's where the security guard or the cop wants to arrest the orange-haired girl for killing somebody in a play.
Oh, right.
And you know,
it gets
so,
meta.
It gets very meta, and then how like there was like a one take, and they slowly kind of move into this play where all of a sudden they were kidnapped. Like they kidnapped the ambassador and this German entrepreneur businessman, and you know, they're kind of like they're collapsing the Argentine peso economy to buy a gas company. That's kind of what that's about. And you know, that's kind of a little bit vague there towards the end, but I think that
but I like that last sequence in the brothel, because then it reminds me of the end of Last Tango in Paris. Anyway.
Well, do you know that tango? That like there's a queer element of tango, like gay men dancing together in a brothel. And when I wanted to.
Have you seen Last Tango in Paris?
Yeah.
Well, I think you were unconsciously. Anyway, does anyone have any comments or questions? Yeah.
Hi. I have some comments and a question. First of all, you're to be congratulated for getting your first film out so well crafted. I love the story. And Bruce, I love that you said it's like Jesus Christ Superstar.
No, God's
film. It's the feeling I had, but I couldn't put it into words. So two things. Three things. One, I wanted to hear about casting. I'm an actor, and because you know you're dealing with stars, so you just make offers. And also, you know, I work with directors who just cast you after a meeting, and other people they read you 100,000 times. And also, the play, it can stand by itself. It's very interesting. I see it more as an anti-American government film, not the people. The American people don't know what's going on.
But there's a lot of ignorance that you know, young U.S. citizens, when they travel abroad, they
And also one thing too is like so many people, and I'm saying this as an actor, minimize what it takes to play yourself. Because a lot of times people get, they start self-directing and they get self-conscious, and you were just seamless with everybody else. So again, you're to be congratulated.
Okay, there's a lot. So the first one was
about acting, about casting. So the casting was done during the pandemic, and I think because we had a lot of time, I started through video calls. Like I did a video call with like 120 different people. Can you imagine?
Wow.
Like 10 minutes, like 10-minute actors.
Speed dating.
Yeah, like speed dating. But also because under protocols, you couldn't get in a room with anybody. In Argentina, it was very strict. So I did video calls. Yeah, and I just did a lot of video calls, and that's how I started the casting. Then I did the auditions, and once you get a famous actor, then you get government funding. That's kind of how that works in Argentina.
Everywhere.
So, yeah, everywhere, right? And so I had a connection to the Orange-Haired Girls, a director that made another film where she was in, and I really liked that film, and I said I want to work with her, and you think she's interested in coming to an audition? She came, and she's really talented punk. She had this punk spirit. She's even she's like a singer in a post-punk band. She loves Bruce, I'm sure. And so we did the casting, we did the auditions, and yeah, that's kind of how that worked. But because there was so much time in the pandemic, it helped to establish a bond with these people. And I think that was really wonderful. Sorry, we just have one more question. Did you?
No, she got 4. Yeah. But what was the second?
Oh, we have one more person in the back. Sorry.
No. Sorry. You had one number.
I can't remember.
Okay.
That's okay. Sorry.
Just a question. Film was probably fabulous.
Thank you so much.
But if you want to see it again,
Yeah.
or if you want to tell people where you can see it, where can you see it?
Oh, well, thank you so much for the question. The film will be playing in New York on Sunday. I mean, I guess
at the quad.
I have to go geographical with the question, right? You mean like in Canada, in Toronto?
Do you have a? Is it a single?
It's playing at the quad. It's playing at the quad.
Do you have a
we don't
run?
have. What's that?
Is it a run or are you?
Yeah, we have a run. Well, no,
what week?
it's just one day at the quad on Sunday.
Okay.
And then we're playing in 9 different cities across the United States.
Do you have a distributor in this?
Right now, no, we don't. We're looking for distributors.
So you're doing it yourself?
We're doing it yeah, with a production company, 2 production companies, and
Okay.
yeah, and Rise distribution company.
Okay.
So that's how we're working the system. It's a difficult film for a U.S. audience, most likely because
but it's so topical right now for
Yeah,
American.
it is.
For
It
an
is.
American audience. I mean,
You know.
that whole idea of imperialism and.
Yeah, well, what are we supposed to do, right? Like, what are we supposed to do with this attack on individual freedom and on identity? Mostly, it's about the expression of freedom.
I love
as
this scene.
identity.
I love this scene where you throw your American passport in the ocean. It's like, at this point, who fucking needs an American passport? I mean, it's
right.
like.
No, that's a really good point. There's so much. I didn't think about that in the context of now, but like every day it just gets worse. And today with this conversation and so forth on Twitter, it's just getting worse. And so we probably have to wrap it up. So thank you so much.